Hello. So, I decided to record today because I have a lot going on in my mind, and I thought I hadn't updated in a while, and I apologize in advance. I still am not wearing a shirt because it's still very uncomfortable and warm. Also, I haven't been able to shave, so there's that. I am not wearing the splint so much anymore. My hand movement is still really, really good for my fingers. My wrist movement is still not that great. Um, Still working on my wrist movement from surgery. My next surgery is the 29th still. I just had an appointment yesterday where I went in and got checked for if there's any infections. There's not. Everything looks good and healthy. I was very surprised at how much it wore me out. I've been exercising more and doing more than just arm exercises, but like trying to walk in place and stuff like that for like half an hour. And going to that appointment still just like wiped me out. I fell asleep for like 4 hours afterwards. So apparently, my body is not quite as physically capable as I had been thinking it was. But it is nice to know that I have zero infections, that I'm healing well. A bunch of the stitches that dissolve have been dissolving, so there's been a lot of bleeding and stuff that I was a little concerned about. There also has been like some issues with pain where I keep getting pain in the places where the micro connections are from the microsurgery, but it's not like loud pain. It's just like, oh, hey, there's something healing here kind of pain. I'm pretty sure it's fine. It seems like nobody's worried about it. But it does bother me sometimes. I'm like, oh no. But I've been told over and over again, pain is good, numbness is bad. So that's true for my arm, that's true for where the nerve connections are. I will also say, sensation wise, the base, I can feel like everything now. It has been coming in very quickly, and, you know, arousal is definitely a very stressful thing because it takes a while for arousal to go away, and you can't like just do something about it. And so the sensation is just like impressive. I was a little worried that maybe I'd have less sensation, or that I'd have to wait like for a year or two to be able to have that kind of feelings, and it's there. And it's not moving up into the phallus itself, into the shaft, but um, it is definitely very much all in the base. And the phallus itself is very soft. It's still very smooth feeling and everything. So I feel like excited about the future. On the 29th will be the surgery where they take some skin from my thigh to put on my arm and on the bottom of the phallus where all this BTS stuff is. And supposedly, once that happens, I won't really have that much pain except in my thigh, which will hurt a lot. Supposedly, that's what will happen. We'll see. Right now, I feel like my hand itself is pretty strong, but the arm, like the twisting of the arm and the moving up and down of the wrist, is still not that great. Surgery, healing, and everything otherwise seems to be going pretty well. Thank goodness for detachable shower head, and thank goodness for baby wipes. Thank goodness for a lot of things. But something I will bring up is it has been a nightmare with having gauze delivered to the house. So the hospital ordered a shipment for gauze to come to the apartment, and they basically just, the company that they used so that it would be covered by insurance, was not something that was like using normal delivery systems, like they deliver it themselves. And they just did not want to deliver it, as far as I can tell. It took like a week for them to deliver it, and we had almost run out of gauze. So then we had this big pile of gauze, and we were so relieved about the pile of gauze, we didn't think to count it. And sure enough, they did not give us as much gauze as had been ordered. And so now we're like to the last dredges of gauze again. The hospital did make another order, but they haven't attempted to deliver it at all. And so the company that is doing like the delivery of stuff to the apartment sucks and just seems to really not be interested in actually doing it. I don't know why they don't like us, but for some reason they really, really just don't like us. They just send these text messages over and over. Oh, attempted to deliver, note delivery undeliverable or whatever. And like my roommate gave them the code to get in the building, gave them her direct phone number so they could call her to come open the door for them, like everything under the sun. And they just kept sending that message over and over until finally, after like 6 times, they did it. Now here we are waiting for a delivery again, and it's getting emergent. I've actually had to pay for some gauze at like a pharmacy because they still haven't delivered it again. And so that's been really, really frustrating. It takes so much gauze to create the cloud around the phallus, and then it takes a whole roll of gauze to go on the arm. And so that's been very stressful, trying to just get gauze. Another thing that's been stressful is I can't like sit down at a computer. I can't just like rest a laptop on my chest. I have like these pillows around me to help lay my arm on and stuff like that. And so I need to sign up for like classes because I wanted to try to attempt to take some summer classes that were online, and it's very difficult to register for classes. Like even looking up which classes are full and stuff like that, it takes so much time. I can't just sit there and look at it, and so it's not very accessible, and I have to do it for 2 different schools, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. But the other thing is the big reason I'm recording right now. I knew this was going to happen, that once I didn't have so much to do and I wasn't so distracted, that I was going to be laying here and have nothing to do except watch TV and think about things I want to write about and feel emotions. And it's been rough emotionally, having to lay here in a whole bunch of feelings. The investigation, the case that I explained, I don't know how many videos back, all of the like emotions from that are all very much hitting me, and I'm having to confront like some things about myself. And here I am, so happy with my results from surgery. Like I'm really, really happy about it, and at the same time I feel deeply distressed. And I'm so freaking happy about the results being so close to what I had wanted. And at the same time, I have for years used as an excuse to not date this surgery, and that it hadn't happened yet. And this surgery has happened, and maybe the phallus isn't complete. It won't be complete until, not this upcoming surgery on the 29th, but the next one after that. And yet it's getting pretty close. Like 6 months from now, I could be having that surgery, and then my excuse to not date is out the window. And then it just has to be the real reasons that I don't date, besides the shame about my body. Like, the shame about my body has been very real, but I already, just from this surgery, feel so much less shame. And it's a little terrifying to think about possibly dating. And I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very caring person, but part of it is because I have, this underdeveloped nervous system of mine, and part of it is because I have a bunch of other disorders as well. I was just born weird. But also, part of it is that I care very, very deeply. I do. I crave connection and stuff, but I've never actually felt like I've had people who wanted me. And so I can be quite avoidant. And I didn't realize that I do this, but because of this stupid investigation where for over 2 years I had this hero, and then that person ended up not only not helping me when I was being harassed and stalked by her own stalker. She didn't even believe that she was being stalked because she has like trauma about stalking, but then she turned it and flipped it and said that I was the one who was the stalker and the harasser, and protected him. And then they dismissed the case against him, and then he went on to hurt more people and has continuously tried to hurt me. Never ever stopped. And part of it wasn't all her fault because turns out the person she went to for advice was outright discriminatory against me for being neurodivergent, and I had no idea. And it turns out he literally outright was full blown discriminatory, like like not just ableist, but like deliberate discrimination. So that's been a whole stupid thing. But even besides that, like, it hurt a lot the way that she acted. And then she was being like weird. So I disconnected us from social media because she was lurking on my social media. And I thought, she dropped out of the thing, dropped out of participation and everything. But she didn't like start trying to be in contact again or anything like that. I didn't expect that. Like, and even if she did, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I do not trust her because she had like obviously some sort of trigger snap, and she's triggered. But at the same time, if this is her reaction to being triggered, is to deliberately try to like ruin my life, I don't trust her like at all. Like, even if it is for a reason that she's like in some sort of panic or afraid of stuff like stalking, I still can't be the punching bag for her being scared. And I just I don't think she's a terrible person, but I do think I shouldn't be around her. And so earlier this morning, a thing came up for an opportunity, and it looked fun and interesting until I realized she was involved in it. And also, the guy that she went to for advice, who actively discriminated against me more than once, and full on let it be in writing, even that it was because I'm neurodivergent. Um, like, he's involved in the opportunity as well. And my boss at one of my jobs was like, "Oh, this opportunity looks really cool." And I didn't want to have to try to explain, "Oh no, I'm avoiding two of the people involved in this opportunity, hardcore." So I just said, I already have had opportunities, and I would feel bad taking away a chance for someone new who's just starting out with like leadership stuff to maybe not have that spot. Um, I would have actually liked to have done it, but it is also true that I do usually try to prioritize people who are new to stuff and not take chances away from people. But I have to deal with this, that I'm going to be missing out on opportunities simply because this person who used to be my hero, she did all of this, and she made false accusations against me and did all of this crazy stuff, and that's really hard to know that I literally will just miss out on opportunities for my career because she's there. And I had to look at myself a lot recently because I always looked for the best in her, and I always made excuses for her every time people told me, oh no, maybe she shouldn't be your mentor, or oh no, she's too harsh with you, or even like my roommate said she was toxic. And I was like, no, she's not. She's my hero. She's not. She's just busy, or she just gets stressed, or she, like, I made so many excuses for this woman. Um, and I have a really long history of doing that. I avoid confronting when I've already started to develop a relationship with someone and they were tricking me. And they seemed really nice at first for several months, and then their mask comes off or their behaviors shift. I don't even know how to explain what happens, but people change and they start having a very different kind of relationship where they can be very all, where they used to be very giving, suddenly they're pulling back, and where they used to be very kind, they get more demanding, and where they used to be, you know, understanding, now they have a bunch of expectations, and they used to like talking to you a lot and now they don't. And they just, there's this change, and it's not like, with her at least, it's not like it went full on abusive, which I think is part of the problem, is because I'm so used to being abused, especially by women, that I, you know, thought, oh, it's not that bad. But honestly, I don't even let myself be aware of it. Like, I'm like this person who believes very firmly in not lying. And for some reason, it's like subconsciously, I don't consciously do it at all. I just run away from this change in behavior. And I've been in relationships with people, whether it was friendships or mentorships or, you know, romantic relationships or family, where they do not nice things to me. And quite frankly, my romantic relationships have been outright full-blown abuse, like girls doing terrible, terrible things to me. And I stay and just convince myself that the nice person who I saw at the beginning will come back. And they don't come back, because either it's a woman who actually is very excited for me to suffer and power trips on it, or else it's a woman who was in some sort of like rough time or crisis or something, and then I helped, and instead of being grateful, they actually resent me really, really bad, and they want me to like suffer, and they treat me really, really horrible. And And I tell myself that the nice person will come back. But they don't. They don't come back. And I stay way too long, and I avoid that they tricked me, because I can't tell that they're tricking me in the first place. I literally cannot tell. And that's really, really hard. But I also do an avoiding thing that is even more weird. Or I don't know if weird's the right word for it, but like maladaptive. And I'm not conscious of it either. And I do this thing where I realized while I'm laying here from surgery having to think about this crap, that I also do this thing where I convince myself that I have a different kind of relationship with people than what I have. And I don't really think about what I want it to look like. I let them determine what it's going to be. And one of the most frustrating things for me about my relationship with my hero was that I was very open about that I thought she was my hero, and she didn't correct me. She didn't tell me, oh no, I'm not your hero. I don't want to be your hero. Don't think of me that way. She didn't correct me at all. And so I just walked around for over 2 years thinking she was my hero. Well, that's not entirely true, because a little over a year into the relationship, I finally dared to engage with the concept of I wish she was my mom, and that she was kind of like a mom to me. And she didn't get upset when I said that. She seemed actually to find it touching. So I was very relieved. And I started to test her less and trust her more. And unfortunately, looking back on it, she never actually called herself like a mom to me. She never actually stated herself that I was like a son to her. And I kept thinking, again, making excuses for her, that she was like a mom to me or whatever. But it takes me a super, super long time to accept or come to like consciousness of what kind of relationship I want to have with a person when I care about them very deeply. And I will convince myself that I'm cool with a relationship dynamic that isn't what I actually want. Like with my hero, I tried to be her friend because she said she wanted us to be friends. I tried to be her little protege. Like I tried to be just family in general to her. Like I tried a lot of different things. And I couldn't face that it wasn't working. And I've done it even dumber. Like a lot in my life. I think about my friend that I had who hasn't been my friend for a while. She stopped being my friend, and I was actually okay with it because she villainized me, not in nearly as brutal of a discard, but she basically convinced some of our friends to not be my friend anymore and disappeared and stuff, and I was sad about it, but whatever. And I realized, 7-8 months later, whatever it was, that the whole time that I had known her and she had been like one of my best friends I ever had, that I had been like, oh, I'm your big brother, oh, you're like a sister to me and stuff. And she had even openly told me, oh, if she was a very independent person. She was like, oh, I don't really think about marriage or things like that and stuff. And she was like, one time she told me, if I ever married someone, the only guy I can imagine marrying is you. And I still kept being like, oh, I'm a big brother to her. And I realized like 7, 8 months after the relationship ends that no, I probably actually had a crush on her. And I literally did not consciously have the ability to like see that or understand that. I'm so avoidant of like, I guess, rejection that I preemptively create a relationship dynamic where it's safer to be around that person than what would actually be what I wish it was. And I think, when she stopped being my friend, for instance, there had been a boy who'd been trying to like force her to be his girlfriend. She didn't want to be his girlfriend. And I had tried to help her through that situation and stuff. And we talked quite a bit, about her trying to be detached and stuff. And I didn't understand some of the things she said then. And I think I understand them a little better now. And unfortunately, I think she might have had a crush on me and felt very strange because I think some of my crush on her leaked out in my behaviors without me realizing it, and that I was probably very hard to read. And I was saying, oh, you're just my sister, but every once in a while, I might act like flirty or something, act, unaware, like accidentally. And so then that probably became too hard for her, and she stopped being my friend. And she said when she stopped being my friend, it was because I would get too close. And I would never, ever non consensually touch a girl. So it was very confusing to me when she said that. But I think looking back on it, maybe I did, and I just didn't understand that I was because I wasn't aware. And I've done this a zillion times in my life. And I know it comes from when I was 9, and my life sucked when I was a little kid. It sucked bad. I mean, I was dealing with health problems and poverty, and I was hungry all the time, and trying to take care of my younger siblings and survive the abuse, the constant abuse, almost every single day from my birth mother, and then every once in a while from my father. But just constantly, my birth mother genuinely enjoyed torturing her children, like did it on purpose. And my younger siblings, especially my baby brother, he had health problems, and we never had housing security. We were never like in the same schools or same areas for very long because we just couldn't afford to like stay living in a place stably. Like, everything was bad a lot of the time. My birth mother got away with kidnapping us kids. My parents both cheated on each other, and I watched them do it. My life was pretty rough when I was a kid, but I didn't think it was my fault. And so I was actually very capable. And I was really good at survival. And, I thought everybody lived the same way. I thought life was just like this. And so other kids would play and smile and stuff. So I did too, even though I was miserable. And I didn't take it personally that life was so hard. And so I was a very strange child because I was very, like, capable and mature for my age and a survivalist. And at the same time, I could put on this smile and stuff that I don't even know how to explain with other children. But when I was 9, and there was that woman who was kind to us all summer, the first time we got to visit my father after he fought tooth and nail to stay in our lives and convinced the courts. And unfortunately, I didn't know he had joint custody. My mother told us that she had gotten full custody because, of course, she lied. But we went to visit him for 2 months in the summer, and there was this very nice woman who looked after us and stuff while he went to work for free. And she had kids our age, and she was just so remarkably kind compared to anything I had experienced. And I wanted her to be my mom. And I thought, I don't know how adoption works, but, I thought she wanted to adopt us and stuff. And my father, toward the end of the 2 months, he took us out to eat, her and her kids included. And we all went to the park, and she went to sit on this little bench, and her kids went running. And they sat on the bench on either side, and she put her arms around them and played with their hair and leaned her head down and whispered to them that she loved them and stuff. And I had gone running after her kids, and when they both sat on the bench was short enough, there was no room for me on the bench. And she was so engrossed with loving her kids that she didn't even see me a few feet away, like with tears running down my face, as like the epiphany of how unwanted I was just hit me so hard. And I understood for the first time that other kids did not live the way that I lived, and that it wasn't just life, and that it was me, that I lived this way and those kids lived that way, and there was no room for me on the bench. That this was just my life. And I was about to go back to my birth mother soon, and they were going to stay with her and be happy, and I was going to go back and be miserable. And I don't know, something in my psyche just broke, and I wouldn't speak for like a couple of months. And the only reason I started speaking again is because I failed an attempt at suicide. I tried to make a cocktail of shampoos and cleaners and stuff, and attempted to poison myself. And let me tell you, do not do it. It is diarrhea and vomiting central. It does not kill you. It just makes you really, really sick. Highly, highly do not recommend. But I was 9. I didn't know what I was doing. And so then I started talking again because I was like, well, I guess I'm stuck here. And I might as well get up and do something, go help my brothers. Because I didn't know what else to do, except go try to help other people because I couldn't help myself. And that has been my default my whole life. I help people all the time. I'm nice to people, and I look for people who need help. I want their life to be less hard because I don't know what to do to make my life less hard. And even once I got into teenage years, everything just got worse, not better. The abuse all got worse. I was massively suicidal. I was so mentally unwell when I was a teenager. And then even once I got into adulthood, I got out of there. And I somehow saved myself from, my mother's attempts to kill me, and just immediately got like stuck in life. And then this woman when I was 19 who was 42 started preying on me, and every relationship was just abusive even after that. And my life has never stopped being hellish. Like, as an adult, I've been robbed so many times by women to the point where all my belongings could fit in the backseat of a car, just over and over again. Even just in my marriage, that happened like at least 3 times that I can think of just right now. I've been brutalized and screamed at and had things thrown at me and been hit and kicked and like the works from like literally every girlfriend I've ever had has been abusive in some way. Um, I can only say, oh, this is the least abusive girlfriend I've ever had. I can't say a single one has been not abusive. And I don't even know how to explain that to people because they're like, how? And they're nice to me at first, and so then I think, well, maybe this time someone actually cares about me. And then no, as soon as they've got me lured in or whatever, they start showing what they're actually like, and I make so many excuses for them. And yet there's other people who I get attracted to who don't seem that interested in me. And so I just convince myself to have a different kind of relationship with them than what I would want. I remember even when I was a teenager, I had a crush on a girl, and later on, once I was an adult, the girl and we started talking a bit on like Facebook, because at the time Facebook was a lot more popular, and she told me full on, some things she had liked and stuff and been interested in as a teenager. I was like, wow, I would never have thought that. But I always really liked you. And she was like, oh, I really liked you too. And she was like, I actually kind of had a crush on you. And I was like, oh my God, I had a crush on you. And I was shocked. I was like, here she is. She's married. She's got 2 kids. And what if that could have been me? If I just, instead of acting like I was her sibling, actually had told her I had a crush on her. And yet I thought that's a fluke. And so I just never ever I never have told people stuff. My that nice woman who sat on the bench, my father ended up marrying her sister. That woman is my aunt, and I have never spoken to her. I never have spoken to her. From the day that we were in that park, I've literally never spoken to her since in my entire life. I've never once tried to tell her how I had actually felt for her or anything. Like, I am so deeply avoidant. And part of me was like with my friends, haha, oh, I've been turning all these girls down because I'm waiting for surgery. During my associate's degree, it was 9, girls that I've turned down. And during my bachelor's thus far, it's been 5. And I'm barely started into it. And now I've had surgery. And maybe surgery's not done, but still, the the end is more in sight than it's ever been. And I am trying to figure out how in the world to deal with this. Because when a girl expresses interest in me, I either full on run away, or else I realize, oh crap, she's been around a while and she's shown interest in me, and I've accidentally let us get too close. And so then I just make excuses for her when she does bad stuff, and they always do bad stuff. I get my hopes up, and then I can't take the pain of it or something, and I just default to making excuses for her. And then, if she isn't nice to me, if she isn't interested in me or whatever, then I just be something else because I still want us to be in each other's lives. I guess subconsciously or something. So I don't even realize I'm doing it. That's the thing that's really makes me feel like I must be like broken or something, is I don't even consciously understand that I'm doing it. It's not until months and months later, once a relationship ends, that I understand that I was just being stupid and avoidant, and so as much as it's very painful that I've had like all these super abusive relationships, um and it's not just romantic relationships with women where women have been quick to take advantage of me or abuse me. Unfortunately, again, friendships and mentorships and stuff have too often ended up that way as well. And it's been a couple of times with guys, but not very often. It's much, much less often with men. But every once in a while, it happens with men too, where I'm like, oh, that's like my brother. And then, oh no, actually, he was a jerk. Or, oh, that's like my brother. Because actually, I wish he was someone who would stay in my life long term, and he's not going to. So I just convince myself that he's like a brother to me when in reality, I wish he was like, a best friend or something, and it's not going to happen. I don't know. I tell myself stupid things, I guess. I don't know. Like subconsciously, like underneath. And as much as it hurts that people abuse me and take advantage of me and use me and stuff, I don't know how to have a more aware and real relationship with people in a way that could be more preventative of that, I guess. So it's not even all their fault, even though it's never acceptable for people to do that kind of bad stuff to me. Like that's not good, that's bad. I also can tell that it's partially my fault and that I've hurt people's feelings before with this avoidance thing that I do. Like again, the friend that I had a crush on, she had a crush on me. She literally like more than once in my life that has happened where I had a crush on even my roommate when we very first met and stuff, and all. My current roommate used to be my girlfriend back during my marriage, right? When my ex-wife wanted to be polyamorous, and I was very like, oh, I don't know about this. We ended up doing polyamory with my roommate because my ex-wife and my roommate became best friends and stuff, and she wanted to live in best friend, my ex-wife, because somehow, even though I was with her 24/7, 365 days a year, it was not enough attention for her. Um, I will never be in a relationship like that again, where I have to spend nonstop every second of the day with someone. Like, I wasn't allowed to have a job, I wasn't allowed to go to doctor's appointments, nothing. Like, I had to only go to her appointments with her until, we started having a girlfriend, and the girlfriend was like, yeah, this is not okay. But, but even her, I liked her right away. Like, I could tell I liked her almost immediately, so I avoided her like the plague. And I felt really ashamed and guilty of being attracted to her, so I just became a mentor person since I was helping with online support groups at the time for suicide prevention in the LGBT plus community. I literally just was like, oh, I'm just a mentor person, you know, and I otherwise avoided her. For like almost a year, I convinced myself that that's all I was to her. When I had a crush on her like the whole time, and she had a crush on me, and she would follow me around, so it was really difficult. But finally, my ex wife and a mutual friend of ours pushed us together because they knew we both had a crush on each other. And so we ended up, you know, with her as a girlfriend. And then after my ex wife abandoned, you know, me, she also abandoned, you know, who was our girlfriend at the time. And so we became friends and roommates, and that's been a lot better. Because when she was my girlfriend, she was not very nice to me all of the time. In fact, there was a lot of the time that she was not very nice to me. But she was still nicer to me than my ex wife was. And she saved my life. Like, if it wasn't for her being our girlfriend, I would never have been able to go to the doctors. I would have been, I almost died from health reasons more than once in my marriage. And, you know, if it wasn't for her being our girlfriend and saying, oh, that's not okay, that he needs to go to the doctors, he needs to go to therapy, he needs to be on hormones, he needs his health to matter. Like, if that hadn't happened, if she hadn't convinced me that that was okay to think those kinds of things and to do those kinds of things, and convinced my ex-wife that it was okay, and then she convinced my ex-wife that I needed to have surgery, and then my ex-wife pretended like she was okay with me having surgery, and then she was not, and she, 2 weeks into my recovery from my first surgery, took everything and broke the lease and tried to make sure I'd be homeless and starving. Like, she tried to just destroy me. And, you know, still my girlfriend at the time was like, you know, she wants you destroyed, screw her, that's exactly what's not going to happen. And she made sure I didn't end up homeless, even though it was a massive financial burden at the moment for her. So she's like saved my life more than once, because if I hadn't started getting surgeries, eventually I had a surgery where it literally saved my life. I had endometriosis so bad, they had to cut out like the bottom of my liver and stuff because it was eating into my organs. And they were like, you would have been dead in within 10 years. And because it was just so bad. And like, you know, without the HRT, my bones were turning into like jello. Like, I would have died from bone snapping inside of me. I already had one of my ribs almost pierce a lung before. Like, it was bad. Like, so bad. And then on top of that, when my ex-wife abandoned me, you know, talk about brutal discards. Like, as much as my hero making false allegations against me and trying to ruin my life hurts, and her helping and enabling a predator to continue to prey on me and other people hurts. Like, my ex-wife definitely holds the medal for brutal discard, you know. Like, I've survived worse. Brutal discards is sort of something I'm pretty used to at this point in my life. Unfortunately, it's not a good thing. But at the same time, I feel like they brutally discard me because I am so avoidant that I don't leave, because they don't tell me explicitly, hey, I don't want you in my life. If someone tells me that, I go. I like instantaneously just drop out of their life. I can be avoidant as can be, and I literally just full on disappear from their life like a ghost. But if they don't tell me that, I will just stay in this place of self-deception and avoid confronting that they're treating me like crap, so obviously I should not be part of their life. And at the same time, I have this other form of avoidance where if I like someone and I think that they want care for me back, I create a totally different relationship dynamic than what I would actually want, and just stay in their life with that dynamic, and it doesn't really work that well. And then later they brutally discard me because I I'm probably giving really confusing signals because I don't even realize what my behaviors are. And I think that I'm being the relationship that I think I'm being, and in actuality, I'm being different than that. And so I'm laying here with my body much closer to how I've wished it was my entire life. Like, cannot begin to express how grateful I am for surgery. And at the same time, having gotten the surgery means I can't avoid this issue any longer, and that's terrifying. I am a person who deals with a lot of shame, and some of it's about, being surgically altered when I was little without any say in the matter, and turned into a girl when I was a boy the whole time. Part of it's been just being ostracized and the misfit, even besides my body. There's always been that I was poor, or there's always been that I was always the new kid at school, or always been just strange to people. I have this, underdeveloped nervous system that makes me very weird to people. People are always shocked at how old I am compared to how old I seem. And I can be very childlike, and it's very difficult for me to admit the shame that I feel around being completely unwanted, and that I have never felt in my entire life like someone actually genuinely loved me. And I have had some relationships where I felt like I had a pretty mutual relationship with someone, but they were pretty surface level relationships, or they were just being pals. They were never love. And even the people I'm supposedly closest with in the entire world, I don't actually feel like they love me. And we use the word love sometimes to just say to each other, but I don't feel like they actually do. Because they don't treat me with the kind of affection that I would treat them. And so if it's not mutual, it doesn't feel like love. So it feels like varying degrees of something else. And I know there's just something about me that's off. And that even if I say was less avoidant and stuff, and say if I cared about someone, told them exactly how I felt about them instead of whatever this subconscious thing is that I do, that it wouldn't really make a difference. It wouldn't change that people don't care. I think that's deeply painful, because I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. I do not understand. I think I've been confused my entire life. Even when I was standing in front of that bench, why? Why? I'm good. I deserve to be cared about just as much as those kids sitting on the bench do. So why? And my whole life I've felt like I'm a pretty good person. I mean, I'm not a perfect person. I make a lot of mistakes. But I genuinely try my very hardest to be a good person, and yet nobody wants me in a way that's substantial. And that's so hard. And I don't even know what to do about it, because overcoming the shame about my body doesn't change that I still have to figure out some sort of way to overcome the shame about being strangely unlovable, even though I can't fathom why. I don't actually know why. If I could meet me and have me in my own life, I would be really thrilled. I would think, oh, yay, someone that caring and honest and devoted and keeps their promises and, has good intentions and wants to help people, like that person's in my life. I would be thrilled about it, but I've never met anyone who I felt like was so thrilled on that kind of level about having me in their life. Not once. Not one single time in my entire life. And everyone wants me to date. Even my father. Even my father wants me to date. Everyone thinks that I belong in some magically wonderful relationship with some woman somewhere. And I'm like, where is this woman, though? You want me to date, but where is the woman to date? Because I don't know where she is. Where is the woman that I actually believe is capable of having a relationship that has depth to it with me? I don't know where she is. And sensation's coming in. So if I met her, we could actually have intimacy and stuff. That's no longer an excuse, I guess. For excuse isn't the right word, because the shame of it has been deeply wounding for me. But that's one less barrier. And yet it still feels so insurmountable. And having surgery and having to lay here and confront that has been very difficult. But what can I do? I have to. Because I've had surgery. It's happened. The next stages are all set in a pretty predictable, path. There's no more waiting indefinitely. Reality's kicking in. Life's hard. And how do I be more aware? I don't know. I told my therapist all of this, and she said, "Oh, we can work on this. I know things we can do." And she said that it's really great that I've had this realization, and that I'm coming to terms with this and understanding this about myself. I already had started realizing I'm some sort of fearful, avoidant, disorganized attachment person or whatever. She says there's hope, but I don't know how to see it. but I have to do something because surgery's happened. And I have the phallus of my dreams, the phallus that I've literally felt there since I was 12 years old. And it weighs exactly what it's supposed to weigh. And if the girth is exactly what it's supposed to be, like, it's there. It's not something that's just in my, sensory anymore. It's tangible. And so I have to try to take the next step and get my head capable of wrapping around the concept of possibility. Instead of auto defaulting to that it's impossible. And I have no idea how I'm going to do that. But having surgery has opened a giant can of worms, emotionally for me. And as horrifyingly terrible as this entire investigation thing has been, and what my hero did to me, like, is so unbelievably cruel. I don't know if the can of worms would have opened fully if she hadn't done that. I don't know. I don't know. But life is hard. Or at least mine. At least mine, anyway. I don't know. I feel like everybody has some sort of hardship in their life. That's why I keep trying to help. Because I genuinely believe life's not supposed to be this hard. We need systems that are less painful because life's hard enough all by itself. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know if I'll record again before the 29th. I don't know. But, I gotta figure crap out. Because I've had surgery now. I've had surgery. And I'm so happy and so conflicted and terrified at the same time.